Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures in order for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday, and we have one scheduled to drop this upcoming Sunday. So definitely be sure to meander over to the website and take a read of those. Or if it is the case that you are out and about and on the go, we are available on 10 different podcast platforms, and we've provided you with the link in the description down below. Now, as is the convention, definitely be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis, and this week our topic of discussion is going to be on education. Now, before jumping into today's segment, a couple of housekeeping items. I wanted to let you know that we will be going live this month, so we have 2 live events scheduled. The topic of this month is going to be on resolve, so we're going to be talking about how we define resolve, how it should translate in our lives, and how we leverage resolve to push through some of those difficult times. If it is the case that you're curious about attending our live event, these are paid live events, but you can take advantage of some sweet deals by taking a look at some of our package options. So we do plan on offering webinars and workshops over and above our live events for those who participate and who join in our community. So take a look at the options that we have available and see what best aligns with your interests. Now that that is talked about and taken care of, let's jump into today's segment. And today we're going to be talking about holding contrary points of view. And when we think about cultivating a critical thinking lens and building our critical thinking toolkit, part of how that translates is being able to hold a position or an opinion that is contrary to our own. So this doesn't mean that we're adopting or taking on that opinion or point of view, but it just means that we can put ourselves in someone else's position and think about the ways that having those opinions or having those beliefs or those positions might influence our behavior moving forward. And why is this an important skill set? It's an important skill set because very few of us have the occasion or the opportunity to make decisions in a vacuum. In fact, I might argue that none of us really have the luxury of making a choice or a decision in a vacuum, which means a lot of our interconnectedness as individuals stems from the decisions that we make that impact other people around us. And all of our decisions stand to impact each other in direct or indirect ways. So it's an important tool to cultivate, to recognize how to anticipate how someone else's decision might translate in their behavior and in their action when we think about sort of the interconnectedness and sort of overlay of the cause and effects that our decisions create. And why we want to do this, because it helps us navigate accordingly. It helps us navigate different environments where a lot of our interests might be conflicting, and we want to get a sense of, well, how do I circumvent this conflict, or how do I counteract this person's action against me or for me, or whatever the case might be. It just helps you become a little bit more aware of the network of decisions that are taking place that influence you directly or indirectly in your life. And it's also a useful tool. It's kind of a fun exercise. We call it thought experimentation. It's a form or style of thought experimentation to step into someone else's lens and point of view and see the world through a different perspective. But in order to do that, we need to suspend disbelief. And that's going to be the real talk of today, is how we suspend disbelief. And suspending disbelief is really giving ourselves the opportunity to look at something without cynicism or skepticism obstructing your view. So sometimes when we're skeptical about a belief, or when we're cynical about whether or not something could really be true, it obstructs our ability to think about or anticipate that person or another person's decisions because we're closed to that idea. So when it comes to being able to hold contrary points of view, we need to recognize that any type of closed-mindedness circumvents our ability to anticipate the actions and decisions of other people. So suspending disbelief gives us an opportunity to hold off on any of the attitudes or states of being that comes with our own position and our own disbelief, so that we can step into a reality where believing in something or believing in such a thing might influence our decisions in the different directions that we take. And if we can anticipate that, we can circumvent that from our own point of view. So stepping into different points of view and different angles is a strong toolkit to navigate environments where all of our decisions are constantly competing or interacting or conflicting or engaging with one another, and how we can always anticipate, and with that anticipation, plan and preemptively plan our moves and counter moves as it relates to the decisions and sort of the actions that other people are taking. So suspend disbelief is one of the core elements, and also reserving judgment. And I've written a little bit about reserving judgment. Suspending disbelief and reserving judgment are kind of two sides of the same coin. Is that reserving judgment really comes from a place of neutrality. So like if I don't currently have a position, therefore nothing sort of by way of values or belief that are obstructing my point of view, or there's no skepticism really kind of obstructing my ability to think about a way someone else would navigate carrying a specific belief, then I can reserve judgment, because maybe out of the gate, as I think about it, I'm like, well, I'm not really quite sure that this is something that I feel could translate necessarily. I can reserve judgment so that I can step into that person's skin and see how carrying that belief or carrying that attitude would influence me to act in one way or another. And this is an important skill, because when we think about how other people's choices stand to impact and influence us, it helps us to be less passive with our lives, right? So it's easy for us to feel like life is happening to us and not with us, when we aren't really setting ourselves up to successfully anticipate some of the actions and counteractions of those around us. And any of you who play chess, you cultivate this. You're not calling it suspending disbelief, or maybe you're not calling it reserving judgment, but when you are in the practice of being able to accurately anticipate the actions of others and circumvent those actions for your own benefit, then that is a skill that's going to take you very far in life and also help you to mitigate different risks and different events that might end up saving your life if you think about it at the most extreme level. But even in like the little cases, helps you in the decisions that you're making, or kind of mitigate any like exploitation that other people might have of you. There's a lot of behaviors that take place in our day-to-day that aren't the best behaviors, and the best way that we cultivate the tools and the skills to circumvent that is to really be able to take on a thinking pattern that isn't our own for the purposes of counteracting and acting in our best interest. One of the reasons why we do this activity is because it allows us to experiment with a worldview and see how that worldview would influence our thought processes and our opinions and our decisions. And when we think about that, then we can put ourselves in a position where we see how our behavior would change and how our behavior would be sort of adjusted in different ways if we carried those opinions and those points of view. Now, if we think about the disparity between who we are and how we are and how we typically would make decisions, and if we know this person enough that we can get a sense of, who they are and how they typically would make decisions, then adding on this layer of taking on a specific belief that they might carry, or taking on behaviors and attitudes and different trajectories that one would have in place that would coincide with that belief, puts us in a better position to empathize with how they are struggling with a point of view, or get a sense of what choices they stand to make with that belief activated. So it really gives you an opportunity to see how your point of view and how your opinion would change on a given subject if you had this belief, and if that belief was activated in the way that you were thinking about that specific subject. So this is the baseline. So this is what I call neutral states. When I'm doing this impartially, I'm kind of putting myself in different points of view to anticipate the trajectories and directions that they would take. I'm kind of doing this from a neutral state. And this is really giving you the ability to take on alternate judgments that are not our own and to get a sense of how those judgments, how those positions influence our behavior. And this helps us to build and reinforce empathy. So if we know that we would never take a specific action, typically we know that and we feel very convicted in that position because it's attached to a belief, it's attached to a judgment. Now, if we suspended our own judgment and activated a judgment that we didn't have, but we recognize is influencing someone else's behaviors and actions, that will help us to garnish empathy. It's like, oh, okay, like I can empathize with why they would make that choice if it was the fact that they were operating within this frame of thinking. And it gives you a better position to make intelligent assumptions about a person's actions moving forward, about the decisions that they're going to take moving forward, which helps you in an environment where we're all constantly interacting with the interference of everyone else's decision making as we kind of build our own path and go on our own trajectory. So now when we talk about suspend disbelief, so this is an important skill because sometimes it is our disbelief in the belief that other people could possibly carry that makes it very hard for us to understand why someone would engage and behave in a different way. So this is a useful cognitive tool and it involves a lot of imagination and creativity as well. So for me, like my fundamental core value, the truest value to my core is to live and let live. So I am someone, I live by this mandate and I expect other people to engage with me as such. So I expect people to allow me to live and I will allow them to live. And the only time I really feel inclined to disrupt my being very focused on my own path and me living my own life is when I see that the let live part is being encroached upon or kind of being abused. So I'm always ready to let other people live, but some people carry beliefs that really contradict with the let live part. So for them, living is about encroaching or managing the lives of other people, and they don't see that a breach of personal sovereignty and freedom of autonomy as a problem. But for someone like me, whose core value is to live and let live, I find it unbelievable that someone could spend their lives thinking about how to manage and orchestrate the lives of others. So for me to put myself in a position where I can properly anticipate actions and inactions and decisions and trajectories that someone who has a very different worldview than I do and it is governed by a different set of beliefs than I do, I need to suspend my own disbelief, which is going to obstruct my ability to get a sense of how this person would navigate in their environment with a belief that enabled them and empowered them to encroach on the lives of others so that I could best set myself up for success if I was dealing with this kind of individual moving forward. When I say live and let live, it means that fundamentally, like to my core, I do not care about the beliefs that other people hold. But the depth of my indifference is pretty strong. Like so long as your beliefs don't encroach on my beliefs, then what you believe, generally speaking, should really have nothing to do with me. So I don't care what you believe. I don't need you to believe the things that I believe. I don't feel inclined to persuade you to believe what I believe. I don't care to be persuaded to believe what you believe. I want to live and to let live. And so long as I'm not personally impacted by your beliefs, so your beliefs don't encroach and, negatively or adversely impact my desire to live my own life the way that I would like to, this is for me the ideal space, right? Where like I'm not thinking about what other people are thinking about. I'm just kind of focused on my own path. All to say, many people believe very different things, and fortunately or unfortunately, some of what people believe involve encroaching on the lives and the lived experiences of others and controlling or, orchestrating events or manipulating events so that they live the life you want them to live. And this isn't always out of malicious intent. We're kind of born into this world of expectations. We're kind of born to live up to the expectations that other people have of us. And it takes a lot of inner work and a lot of our own experience to realize that our lives are for us to live and not to live for others, right? Like I wasn't brought in this world by my own accord. I didn't have a choice. But I think at a very young age, I realized this is my life to live and I could live according to the expectations of others, which felt wrong and it felt misaligned with how I wanted to live my life. Or I could align myself to my own expectations, which gave me a much stronger sense of fulfillment and of passion to kind of push ahead to achieve the goals that I had in mind. But I realized that live and let live isn't necessarily the working construct of our society. Our society is very much kind of built to kind of live to the expectations of others, and that kind of translates as not allowing us to live our best lives the way that we define it. But I feel like we're in a space right now where a lot of that is being deconstructed as more of us are kind of reclaiming our power and living the life that we feel we deserve to live. I'll just say, when we suspend disbelief, it's really to give ourselves an opportunity to explore beliefs other people carry without judgment, right? So explore them, get a sense of how those beliefs will influence those trajectories so that we can get a better understanding of those people, and maybe that will give us a better opportunity to build a bridge between their beliefs and our own so that we can live amicably with one another moving forward. There are people who carry beliefs that I could be very dubious about, like I'm fairly skeptical that I would personally take on that belief, skeptical as it relates to the truth value or the possibility that that belief actually translates in a collective reality where, more than one person kind of experiences that belief in action, which I guess is my own way of saying that idea, concept, philosophy, call it whatever you like to call it, is more than fiction. It's beyond the realm of fiction. And it's only real to the extent that people can talk about it. I mean, talking about it, referencing it, organizing our behavior around it makes something very real. But is it real beyond that? And to explore that, we do this suspend disbelief to kind of explore that in a real way and to give that belief a fighting chance against our cynicism and our own skepticism. So when you suspend disbelief and then you start to think about how that belief in of itself that you're kind of thought experimenting with would influence you. You could have an emotional reaction. It could create an emotive response in you. It could be fear, anger, sadness. You could get a sense of why someone would react in an adverse way if they carried that belief, or react in a positive way if they carried that belief. And you recognize the network of emotions that are tied to a belief or to a system of beliefs, and it allows you to just be more aware of how and why people react to the same thing as you, but in very different ways. Or your reaction could be cerebral, right? It could be like, oh, okay, well, now that I have this belief, this influences said judgment, said thinking pattern in this way, and it opens up this new network of perceiving and dissecting information around you. So I could find something like completely distasteful, this is something I would never do. I would never make a decision that aligns with this. But then you take on this one specific belief, and somehow you start to see the justification or the rationalization behind something that you would otherwise never do. And it's important that we cultivate the ability to do this, because once we get a sense of why someone feels justified and can rationalize behavior that we find abhorrent, then we're in a better position to build arguments that align with their thinking pattern in different ways so that we can target that belief directly in a way that is persuasive if we're trying to convince them or have them see an alternate perspective, or if we're looking to find different strategies that allow us to build a bridge where we can carry our beliefs but live amicably with one another. So I guess in short, I kind of just said it, but it really, to suspend disbelief, to reserve judgment, and to do this thought experimentation where we're kind of thinking or sitting in the heads of other people, it allows us to get a sense of the rationalizations and justifications that stem from those beliefs without feeling horrified or without feeling confused as to how someone could think really that justification has weight. And that puts us in a better position to circumvent or to approach or to build arguments for or against and around that belief, enabling me to respond preemptively, enabling me to respond with my own best interests sort of in mind, or the best interests of the people that I'm representing. And also to give me an opportunity to build an argument, to build a response that actually has impact, that carries weight, and that meets them where they're at. So kind of that is built and aligned with their wavelength and with their style of communication and thinking. And that's because I'm communicating with an understanding of the beliefs that are driving the actions and behaviors of the specific individual. So I'm building my communication for that individual specifically, which allows my communication to be persuasive. Now, this is a tool I think all of us need to be able to do. We all need to learn to reserve judgment, to carry contrary points of views, to enable us to be better communicators, especially when we live in an environment where we all carry so many different opinions and beliefs about the world around us. We need to build bridges between all of those different beliefs so that we can still live amicably as a community. And I think this is the tool, I believe, to get there. So that was a bit on carrying contrary beliefs and points of view. I would love to hear your point of view. I would love to have you try it and get a sense of how it works for you. And again, it's a muscle. So the more you do it, the better you are at doing it. And it enables you to really just be more mindful about the way that you craft communication to someone who doesn't see eye to eye with you, so that you're communicating in a way that is effective and that is actually influencing and impacting that conversation in a way that helps you both move forward. So that was this topic in education. I hope it was helpful. I hope you found or learned something new. Definitely share this with someone who you think would be intrigued by this topic or this point of view, or who would like to take on the challenge of trying to develop this cognitive toolkit. And I look forward to engaging with you. I'd love to hear how it went for you, or what belief you stepped into to get a better sense of the actions, behaviors of someone that you right now have no idea how they operate. And I look forward to talking to you in our next video. We'll see you soon.
I just feel like no one's listening.